Hello and welcome to Inside the Artist Studio. I am here with the lovely Jan Carson. Hi, Jan. How are
Hi.
you?
I'm good. How are you, Rose?
I'm well. So, Jan is beaming into us this afternoon from Loveland, Colorado, where your wonderful studio is in Artworks.
Yeah.
Yes? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm one of 28 artists here in this little community.
Well, and you know what? It's sort of a little hidden treasure up there that people should know about, but go to the Artworks website. And you guys do open studios too, don't you?
We have second Friday, so the second Friday of every month.
Okay.
We try to be here. Sometimes we have openings, sometimes events.
Hmm.
But we love talking about art. We love showing people our work, and it's a good time to visit. We're 4 to 8 on Fridays,
4 to
but
8
definitely
second Friday.
second Friday.
Okay. And you know what? I think the wonderful thing about it is, well, there are a number of wonderful things. One, it's a community, right? You guys kind of collaborate sometimes on exhibits and
Mm-hmm.
just
And on our work. Yeah.
oh, artwork collaborations too.
Well, yeah, if you have a question about something that you're not familiar with, chances are someone here is either working in that medium or knows about it, has worked in it. So there's a lot of good advice for technique and, making it as an artist in business. It's just a
Mm,
wealth of knowledge between all of us, if you
right.
cumulative.
You know, it is kind of, I think, so my dear friend Doug Arian started that, and it has grown in stature, I think, because you're kind of one of the first artists in there, weren't you?
I was kind of in the middle. I came in 2016.
Oh.
And I think they've been going for about 8 years at
Hmm.
that point,
Hmm.
maybe a little less. Yeah, I mean it's a very nurturing, supportive community. And it's just priceless in terms of being encouraged and having know-how and people who you can ask questions and
Yeah.
learn. Yeah.
Well, and I know affordable studio space.
Yes, that too.
Yeah, exhibition space.
Mhm.
And then I think you have to apply. So if anybody is listening to this and thinks this sounds like as great as it really is, go on artworks.com.
Artworksloveland.org.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. .org. And there's going to be an application and more information about it. And go check it out too, because it's a treasure, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely.
Okay, so plug for Loveland, of course. But let's talk about your work. I have admired your work probably since 2016, and Doug is the one when I first saw it at Artworks, and Doug is the one who said, "Rose, you've got to see this woman's work." And he just would, which was, I'm so glad he did, because I I love fiber art and fiber artists, and it seems like it's unfortunately it's not always mainstream. Like most galleries don't think of including fiber artists, which you are. You consider
Mm.
yourself a fiber.
I feel like I'm hard to
Mm,
peg,
yeah.
honestly. I work in fiber though. I work in fabric and I always have.
Mhm.
But I've also done a lot of other things, sculpture, printmaking, I do drawing, but primarily I work with fabric.
Yeah.
But my work doesn't look typical, I would say.
It's really wild because I think when you see your work online, if someone goes online, when I first saw it, I thought these were paintings. In fact, I remember asking Doug, I'm like, well, where's the fiber art? Because I'm seeing these abstract paintings,
Wow.
and he's like, no, those are, and so, I would really encourage people to get in front of your work in particular, because, well, you know what, why don't we take a look at it? Because I think seeing it on a two-dimensional surface or on the computer, it messes with your eyes. But
I get the comment all the time. These look so different in person,
yeah,
or, oh, I get it now. And
yeah.
I show details of my work on my website, but it's still not quite the same.
See, I agree. And I'm going to show some details too, but let's start with this piece right here. The falling figure, and I'm sorry, that's not the actual name of it. You're going to have to
This one's called Whirlwind.
whirlwind. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, oh, I'm sorry. Wait a second.
that's
Which
the
one?
wrong one.
Yeah, where did it go? No, that's fine. Okay, now I have it. I've got all these screens open, but you can only see one. And so what I have what I have open is the falling figure. Never mind. Okay, good. Whirlwind. Um, so this is the full size piece, and remind me the size.
It's about 42 wide by 48 tall.
Hmm. And it's on a light box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes. So it's life size if you're facing, well, for me, I'm a small woman,
yeah.
5'3", 100, So it's a life size figure though. And it is fabric mounted on a light box substrate. So the dark lines that you're seeing are the seams of the sewing.
Oh, ah. And the fabric, obviously it allows light to come through and illuminate what we're seeing.
Yes. Yes, it's all it's not sewn to any, it's not a bunch of layers of fabric like you would see with art quilts. It's one single layer of fabric that I cut out so that it, like I might sew a leaf onto this figure and then I cut out the back of it. So it's all just one sheer weight, one
Yeah.
sheer piece.
Nice. Would you tell me about the inspiration behind Whirlwind?
Most of my work is about how I feel in the world or how the world affects me.
Mm.
Um, so this piece, I had been working with the body and kind of altering the figure based on trying to express my emotions. And this one is just really about feeling that the world is circulating around you without your control.
Mm.
So the effect that the leaves and the lines have upon the figure kind of explain my feelings, my inner sense of being. And this was actually made in 2021, pandemic
Oh,
era.
yeah.
So I feel like it makes a lot of sense that way if you put yourself in how you felt in that time. Um, that's the basic inspiration for it.
And I remember talking to you about essentially your model for the
Mm,
figure. And I'm gonna do a close up on a detail here of Whirlwind. Um, so that people can see it a little bit. You can start to see some of the fibers from the thread on the detail and things like that that you really need to be up close and in person. But at least we can get a little more of that going on. But would you talk to me a little bit about the figure, one, why the figure is important in your work, but two, about using yourself as the model?
hmm Well, I didn't start out using the figure. I was working with just abstraction.
Mm.
Um, and then I started using the figure when I made a version of Jasper John's The Seasons. I made my own version. And this was related to climate change and seasonal shifts. But then when I got face to face with the figure in those works, it just really said something to me that plain abstraction didn't. It was like looking in a mirror. It made sense in terms of my emotions, and I just related to the figure.
Hmm.
So I kept using it because it was a way of talking with myself through the art and asking questions of myself and seeing how I felt. And so the impetus to do something to the figure, whether it means cut it or shift it or make it fall, were all expressions of how I feel in the world and how the world affects me. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah, it does make sense. Well, I'd always think self-portraits are so fascinating to me because I
Mm.
think if it's a pencil drawing, oil painting, watercolor self-portrait, or fiber self-portrait, I think they come with this sort of undercurrent, that maybe just hiring a model won't have the same because you're
Mhm.
responding to an outside source instead of projecting your inner source to the work.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I'd agree. And I would hope that, I know the figure's a certain shape and form and that it's not going to mimic everyone else's, definitely. But
Mhm.
I would hope that people would see it also as just a human figure in the world
Yeah.
and not just a self-portrait. So
Yeah. I mean, that's how I have always seen your portrait work. And honestly, I remember when you said, well, these are self-portraits. And it really struck me as, oh, really? I just remember. And of course they are, it was sort of that, but I didn't put that together
it
initially.
took me a while to put it together, honestly.
Oh,
It took me a while to admit it, even. I wanted it to just be about being human. I
mm,
thought I was expressing what it felt like to be human. And
mm.
then when the figures started becoming more disturbingly affected, I decided this must be more about me.
Ah. In a sense, what you're doing is giving other people permission to feel those feelings, I think, in a public setting, maybe.
Yeah, I would hope that they would recognize their own feelings in my work and how, oh, yes, that is what it's like with this piece that you're looking at here. That is what it feels like in fall. It does feel like things are falling apart. It does feel like it's the end of something.
Mhm.
I would definitely want people to relate, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about this piece and the thinking behind it.
This piece is called Descent. Um, I don't start my work with any kind of idea of what I'm going to make. I start with color,
Mm.
I make a pattern, and then I just kind of add as the piece speaks to me. It's kind of like a conversation.
Oh,
So this piece started out with just the yellow gradating into the gray. And then it was time to add the figure. And I really fought with this one about cutting the figure apart. I thought that is really drastic, but I just couldn't get past it. And so I decided, I got to go for it.
yeah.
And then compositionally, I like leaving parts of the figure out of the frame of reference so that you don't really know the whole story.
Hmm.
And then there's this one in particular, I made the pieces of the figure look more three-dimensional by creating volume to them instead of just a flat silhouette. That was new for this one too. And then once the figure was on the plane and doing what it was doing to me, I kind of it's like I have to close my eyes and feel what's going on. And that's when I decide to add the leaves. So that's kind of when I tie it into nature and when I tie it into the world. It's almost like I get the psychological effect first, and then I have to tie it into what it's like to live and experience.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. So two thoughts came to my mind um, while you were talking about that. One was your wonderful blog. So if you're listening to this, go to Jan Carson, janrcarson.com and sign up for the blog because you write such a personal, wonderful, eye-opening, gentle blog that I always enjoy getting it and I always share it with people because it's just really heartfelt. And I think this is me personally. I think the world needs more people to be open and heartfelt. And it in a way, I think gives people permission to do the same with others and create those connections. So I
Thank
love your
you.
blog. Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
And the other thing I was thinking of as you were talking was that I remember seeing a documentary on the band U2. And Bono, the lead singer, writes most of the songs. And he actually starts with either like, I think it's like a line or a thought or a feeling. And then
Mm.
it just starts to sort of tumble out around it. Like he doesn't sit down there and just sort of like writing a poem and cutting and carving it. It's sort of like what you were saying. Okay, well, I
Mhm.
got us here. Now how do I get there? Or where is this now taking me?
Yeah, it's more like, what is it saying? What is this about?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? It's
Yeah.
not it's not the other way around where I have a message to put onto the work. It's what is the work telling me?
Mm. Wow. I'm going to show a detail of this piece. If I can, here it is. Let me show a detail of this piece here. And again, just so you can kind of get more into it. And I love that. What is the piece saying to me? And what am I feeling in here? And how do I think add more of this sense to it with like the leaves and the idea of fall and falling. And then how you were saying giving depth to the figure, is that like in here where you add?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost so it's like a mannequin or something instead of just a flat
Yeah.
silhouette.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And there's something just really, I think, approachable about it. And what I really love about your work is that I think the colors, and I think fiber does something different. Not like the surface obviously is a different surface, but it kind of has this quality about it that I think sort of calms things down in a sense, or do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I mean, and my fiber is just such a part of our daily life. It's known to us. It's not like paint. Not a lot of people don't know paint, but you know how to wear clothes and you know to use towels, and so it's kind of this familiar medium.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing that came to mind was that the way I work is in terms of objects and pieces, almost like puzzle pieces kind of coming together. And I think that's why painting doesn't work for me. I need to like hold something individual in my hands and put it together instead of making an image of something that's put together. It actually needs to be pieces put together.
I wanted to ask you essentially what you're telling me, but how did you get as an artist from, say, drawing, painting to say, no, I'm going to work in
Mm.
fiber with a sewing machine and piece these things together?
Well, I started in soft sculpture right out of college
Hmm.
because I'd been doing painting and printmaking, and
Mhm.
that just wasn't possible where I was living. But I've always had a sewing machine. I learned how to sew as a child. My mom sewed our clothes. So that was a tool that I could use to express myself. And I was also working at a fabric store. So I had, a lot of that material around me.
Mhm.
And then I went to grad school, and fibers was the natural area to get my master's degree.
Hmm.
And so I just kind of perpetuated my working in fiber and with fabric.
Mhm.
Um,
Hmm.
it's it's second nature to me, I guess.
Yeah.
Drawing, and it just seems like even when I was making soft sculpture right out of college, it was a way to understand life in 3D because I could make it in 3D.
Oh,
And it's so malleable. You can cut it, you can sew it back together, you can stuff it, you can paint, you can dye it. It's just really malleable and versatile, and that's helpful for expression.
yeah. So your work is going to be at Gallery 1261, these particular pieces, maybe a drawing, maybe not. Um,
Mhm.
but the work will be January 2024 at Gallery 1261, so people can find it there. And we're going to have opening first Saturday of January, and we're going to have a panel discussion in the middle of the month. So please check in with theartsoul.com. And Jan, I just really want to thank you for taking a little time out of your afternoon to talk to me about this work. And
Absolutely, my pleasure.
it's
Thank you.
always good to, I love getting kind of the backstory on the work.
Well, an artists love to tell you the backstory, so
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So have a very happy holiday, and I'll look forward to seeing you in January.
Yes.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.